The border crisis is finally ending, and the liberal elite are having complete meltdowns. Border crossings plummeted a staggering 94% since Trump retook office. Pete Hegseth explains why. Illegals are scared because there are consequences now. But here's the bombshell. Instead of celebrating safer American communities, Democrat Representative Jamie Raskin is actually demanding that MS-13 gang members deported to El Salvador be returned to the United States. You heard that right. While the Atlantic sheds crocodile tears over a poor father separated from his family, they conveniently omit that he's a machete-wielding MS-13 member who repeatedly skipped court dates. The hypocrisy is breathtaking, but the pattern is clear. Democrats are prioritizing violent foreign criminals over American citizens. While President Trump deports MS-13 criminals to make America safer, the legendary Chuck Norris has been working on his own strategy for personal security and strength. Even at 84 years old, just as the Trump administration is enforcing borders and ensuring MS-13 members face consequences, Chuck Norris has identified 3 critical threats sabotaging your body as you age. Instead of allowing violent criminals into our neighborhoods, we should follow Chuck's example of maintaining personal strength and vitality. Like those deported gang members who thought they'd never face justice, many Americans believed declining energy and strength were inevitable. But Chuck proves otherwise. Even liberal lawmakers would be impressed by how Chuck maintains the energy to protect himself at his age. Discover his method at chuckdefense.com/next and secure your personal defensive capabilities just as Trump secures our borders. Now, let's get into it. We've got some this is wild, okay? This just came in. Now, it's not exactly a deportation video, but it gives you the idea of what exactly is happening. They both trained for this. That cop was running full speed with 30 pounds of gear on. This is going viral right now. Check this out.
Dead end. There you go. Out and running.
And the car's still on.
And running. Yep, car's still going, but it's kind of bumped into some gating right there. Wow, look at this guy go 15 miles an hour. I love Sky Fox in attack. He's holding it. I couldn't do that. I'm out of breath just watching. And he's continuing on. Oh, my goodness. Well, you know what? That wheelchair, definitely not for him. If that was in the back of that car, I can tell you that. And, you know, this is one of the ones. He's running through that neighborhood. LAPD not going to be able to follow with a car. I can hear the helicopter calling out streets. They're going to keep an eye on it. This might turn into something else. And the speeds of this guy. Look at this. Like, oh my goodness. He's slowing down a little bit. But how long has he been running? Almost 30 seconds, maybe a minute, flat out. This guy has got some energy. That is for sure. LAPD, though, I hear the ship in my other ear. He's calling out locations and streets. I know there's a black and white might be getting close by. Now my concern is if he tries to get into somebody's home. What? There's an LAPD officer behind him. Oh my gosh. How far has this guy been running? Oh, this is you know what? I think in the end they're just going to call up. Taser's out for sure. And he's going to tase him.
Oh,
Tase him on the run.
Oh.
Boom! Boom! Right behind a tree. Always behind a tree. There you go. But he's here. They got him down. I do not think they tased him. But you got this guy on the ground. Dead end. There you go. Out and running.
And the car's still on.
And running.
Wow.
The car's still going, but it's kind of bumped into some.
Yeah, that's basically like every deportation that's happening in this country right now. We have war from the White House. Here's Tom. Trump's war on the deep state rages.
Wisconsin. Hey guys, this is Tom McCullough reporting from the White House with the Next News Network. And guys, it's April 1st, 2025, April Fool's Day, and the biggest joke is the liberals thinking they can stop Trump's agenda. So let's go ahead and jump into the news for this morning. Wisconsin's front and center. The Supreme Court election is happening right now, and if you're there, go vote. This isn't just about a judge, it's about keeping America free from the woke mob. Trump's all in for Brad Schimel. He's a no-nonsense conservative who'll defend your rights. The left wants that court to shove their wild ideas down your throat, abortion everywhere, rigged districts, and Schimel's the guy to block them. Elon Musk is throwing money behind this, and Trump's endorsement says it all. And so Wisconsin, get out and vote. Your country is literally depending on you right now. Get out there and vote, guys. Tell your neighbors, your friends, text everybody, get it done. So yesterday, Trump dropped a hammer. He used the Alien Enemies Act to ship 17 MS-13 gang members back to El Salvador. 17 violent punks gone. Press Secretary Caroline Levin, yesterday's noon briefing, called it justice for Americans. And that's spot on. These aren't sweet kids, they're dangerous. Trump's fixing what Biden broke, and it's a beautiful thing. The left cries about kindness, but what Trump's showing is real guts. America first, no apologies, and they don't show kindness to our people when they murder them. And tomorrow's April 2nd is Liberation Day. Trump slapping 20% tariffs on most imports.
So that's Tom's report from the White House today. Here's Karl Rove. Gunter Eagleman says, shit for brains. Karl Rove tried to press Tom Homan about due process for the criminal aliens deported by CCOT. Tom rightfully pointed out that Lake and Riley had zero due process. Oh man.
Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confidence. Look, due process. Where was Lake and Riley's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
On the subway, where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists. Number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work.
Do they get a chance to prove that before you?
Yeah. Did Lake and Riley have due process? No. Not at all. And here is, he wants them back. Ultra-liberal Representative Jamie Raskin demands gang members and criminals deported by the Trump administration be returned to the United States. I mean, how can this guy even argue this?
Unlawfully take while appealing whichever ones they want to appeal, and to demand the return of people unlawfully taken to El Salvador on that so-called plane full of gangbangers. And I especially, while appealing...
Wow. He's defending gangbangers. Here's Stephen Miller, friendly reminder. If you illegally invaded our country, the only process you're entitled to is deportation. I love it. J.D. Vance tweeting out this. Just 9 hours ago, Joe Biden sanctioned the invasion of the United States. We have approximately 20 million illegal aliens in this country. Their victims are measured in longer wait times for hospitals, overwhelmed schools, and murder victims the media largely ignored. The media has determined the real victims are the gang members we're trying to get out of this country. How disgusting is that? Let's keep going. Here's Pete Hegseth said this. Proud of the role the Department of Defense has played in these historic numbers. Illegals should be scared. There are consequences now because we are locking down the border. He was quote tweeting the New York Post. Illegal border crossings hit stunning new low in March, down 94% in a year because migrants are scared there are consequences. That's the way you do it. Oh my goodness. Here's more from Libs of TikTok posting that clip again. Jamie Raskin defends the deported MS-13 gang members who repeatedly skipped court. Unreal.
The District of Columbia, who created by Congress. Well, the majority says it's because these are radical judges. And they lead off, as our good Chairman Issa did, with Judge Jeb Boasberg, the chief judge of the District Court of the District of Columbia, who enjoined the mass roundup and deportation of immigrants to an infamous El Salvadoran prison in peacetime without any due process at all, allegedly under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a statute explicitly limited to wartime and military invasion. Some of our colleagues have been railing against Judge Boasberg for ordering the planes to be turned around. They say those planes were filled with terrorists, I think my good friend from Texas said. Well, here's one person of many who wasn't a terrorist on that flight or a gangbanger. His name's Kilmer Garcia. He's a Marylander married to a U.S. citizen who has a 5-year-old son with autism. And he went to pick up his son, but he was picked up first by ICE. And then he was shackled and put on that airplane and shipped off to the torturers of El Salvador without ever having the benefit of those two most beautiful words in the English language, due process.
Okay, but was he an illegal? I mean, was he here illegally? Do we address that point? Was he breaking the law?
He never saw a judge. Nobody ever told him what he was being charged for. Nobody ever told him that there were any charges against him. and he was sent to a mega prison run by the self-proclaimed dictator of El Salvador. And yesterday, you know what happened, Mr. Chairman? The Trump administration admitted that it had made a mistake. He was not actually a gangbanger. He was not a criminal. It was all a mistake. If there'd been due process, maybe that would have been determined, but there wasn't. But they put him on that plane in El Salvador. Well, all's well that ends well, right? No. The administration says there's nothing they can do about it now because he's no longer in U.S. custody. This guy who lives in my state, married to a U.S. citizen, with citizen children, he's stuck with the dictator of El Salvador. Well, created by Congress.
Okay, so can't Trump just make a phone call if it was a mistake? If they admitted a mistake, I think he could make a phone call and reverse that. But my question is still: is this guy illegal or not? Why was he rounded up to begin with? Okay, here is the press secretary just a few hours ago, laying out why the Trump administration is prioritizing the removal of MS-13 terrorists.
They hacked 4 people to death with, and let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and...
Okay, I can't even play it. I remember watching this live when she was talking about it. It's just too much. Too much. I'm a pretty, hardened kind of guy. I can handle a lot of this stuff. I compartmentalize it pretty well. But even the stuff that I'm hearing these MS-13 guys doing is just too much for me to even handle. You know, I'm trying to watch this stuff, and I got, family around. They're talking about the brutality of MS-13. It's just too much. Let's take a look at this one.
This administration would like to point out that if you just saw the headline from the insane, failing Atlantic magazine this morning, you would think this individual was Father of the Year, living in Maryland, living a peaceful life, when that couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't even mention in the title of that article, or even in the first paragraph, that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13 gang, and he is...
Okay, so now we have some more context here. Jamie Raskin defending this guy, the White House press secretary clarifying he is in fact the leader of MS-13.
Or even in the first paragraph, that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13 gang, and he is involved in human trafficking, and now MS-13 is a designated foreign terrorist organization. Foreign terrorists have no legal protections in the United States of America, and this administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior. I'd like to...
Okay, so there you have it. That's pretty simple. Now you have the full context. Jamie Raskin still deciding that this guy needs to come back. Brett Baer reacting to the latest border numbers. It's a stunner.
That was our voter analysis team went out and found this. 75% of the people said that they supported. That was the single most important factor in their vote. When you're at 75% in America, all right, 50-50 nation, that's Republicans and Democrats and independents alike. And you mentioned the border crosses. In March, 7,000. That's a stunner. And then you get to the headline from the LA Times, California-Mexico border once overwhelmed, now nearly empty. And that's where we are. And we say it a lot, once you fix a problem, people forget about it. But this is a big change.
It's a stunner, Bill. It really is. And for all of the talk, remember, of President Biden saying, I've done all I can do, and the administration and the Biden administration saying you have to have congressional action and a piece of legislation to be able to change the numbers on the border. What we've seen just in a few weeks is the numbers have changed significantly by the executive actions of the Trump administration.
Our voter analysis team went out and found this.
Everything Biden told us was a straight-up lie. From day one. Oh, you need to have legislative action, and then blame Trump for initiating, his influence on Congress to vote against a bill that would just open up the border even more. Oh man, it's all for us to see now. Tom Homan torches a judge who ruled Trump can't strip deportation protections from Venezuelan illegals.
Said in his ruling days, Tom, the past administration tried to extend TPS. So the administration got rid of it. Your administration under Donald Trump's leadership got rid of it quickly. A federal judge is disagreeing with this, but it's the reasoning that got me. This is what he said in his ruling. There's no evidence that Venezuelan TPS holders are members of the TDA gang, have connections to the gang, and or commit crimes. Generalization of criminality to the Venezuelan TPS population as a whole is baseless and smacks of racism, predicated on generalized false stereotypes. The administration didn't bring stereotypes to the court. That's not the reason for getting rid of TPS. So what is this judge talking about?
Look, it's another activist judge making a stupid ruling. It just doesn't make sense. You know, I've been around since 1984, Lawrence, and a TPS, temporary protected status, is never temporary. And President Trump is going to do his job by the rule of law. The law says temporary status. Once the conditions in that country they're from, once the conditions change, then people should be removed from the United States. It's only a temporary status. For instance, if there's a hurricane and it devastates a part of the country, we'll give them TPS until that country gets back on their feet. But TPS isn't meant to be decades long. So President Trump, who's promised American people, we're going to force the laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. We're going to use the laws of this country to secure the border and enforce our immigration law. That's exactly what we're doing. TPS needs to be temporary in nature. We need to follow the rule of law and not some advice from an activist judge who makes a foolish ruling, not based on law, but based on opinion. If you look at that decision, it's based on opinion, not the rule of law, and that's what we need to get back to. So look, we'll litigate it, and we'll appeal it, and we'll win.
Good days, Tom.
And winning is what we do here in this administration. Here's more from Tom Homan. Says he's going to visit Rochester, New York, after police officers came under fire from city officials because they cooperated with ICE.
Occupants are refusing.
The Rochester Police Department is under a lot of scrutiny because they got an officer assist call from ICE, and they showed up for the call. This is what their union is saying, Tom. Let's watch it.
Our policy is also to back up other officers who need help. We report on this all the time about an officer killed during a traffic stop. It is one of the most dangerous times for an officer to have. You have a vehicle that the occupants are refusing to get out. It was a van. Turns out there was 8 people in that van, and our officers did an excellent job of de-escalating that situation.
Tom, aren't you proud of those law enforcement officers for doing their job, answering the call?
That's they did, yeah, absolutely. And I met some of those officers at a law enforcement rally down in Tennessee, and I told them I'm coming to Rochester. I promised them I'd come to Rochester and address the issue. Now, I have been told just recently that the leadership at Border Patrol and HSI have met with the chief, and they're going to continue to respond to emergency calls. But I made a promise I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I think the issue lies with the mayor of Rochester, who supports sanctuary city policies and took this action. Those officers that responded were put on a death, taken off the road because of those actions. I think what I've heard is the chief of police has had a conversation with both Border Patrol and HSI, but I made a promise to those law enforcement officers I'd go to Rochester, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I keep my promises.
Yeah, Tom. I mean, we're dealing with lunatics right now. When you get a call on the radio saying officer assist, this is standard operating procedure. You show up, no matter what jurisdiction. It's all lights and sirens coming to aid the officer. We'll see what happens, Tom.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we responded to in that story. It says cops need to respond to cops in emergency situations. Border Patrol and ICE has never not responded to a call for assistance from law enforcement.
Tom Homan, thank you, brother. The Rochester Police.
Oh, well, it's not over yet. Still going to have meltdowns from the left. People actually, I mean, how can Jamie Raskin continually defend these people? It blows my mind. But it's about justice, plain and simple. I mean, for years, Americans watched as violent MS-13 members flooded across our borders, established networks in our communities, brutalized innocent citizens. White House press secretary detailing their crimes. I mean, what they did to a 20-year-old autistic woman in Maryland. And 4 people. Oh, I can't even speak it. Yet Jamie Raskin defends these monsters, demanding their return to American soil. Why? Because for the radical left, hating Trump outweighs protecting American lives. Tom Homan put it perfectly when challenged about due process for deported gang members. Laken Riley had zero due process when she was brutally murdered. The uncomfortable question remains. If Democrats are more upset about deported MS-13 gang members than murdered Americans, who do they actually represent? Show your support for the Next News Network by going to our shop, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, grab a hat and grab a shirt, and show your support for the real news.